Hi there.
Oh, we are there. Okay. Yeah.
Well, hi everyone. I'm Renee Paichaki. I'm an artist and public art consultant and a real fan of public art exchange. For those of you who are new to PAX, this is a free, I like to think of it as a friends and colleagues group, people who are interested in public art and engaging artists in the public realm. We've been around for about 2 years now, and I'm part of the programming team along with Laura Zorch McDermott, who is gonna get on the line in a minute. And part of the things that we do is thinking about what kind of topics are our peers going to be interested in. And we've been putting some programs together. You can see past recordings on our YouTube channel, but we're also really open to people's ideas. So get in touch with us if you want to produce your own program for PAX. I was particularly interested in putting this event together tonight because I feel like as a artist and consultant, I can see that balance between, you know, the administrators who are assigning artists things to do and the artists who are sometimes assigned things to do when they're not working on a self-generated project, and the tension that that causes sometimes. Because I feel like as administrators, it can be really helpful for us to have a deeper perspective on what it's like to do some of the challenging things that we're asking artists to work on. So we brought together an artist team and two other artists from across the country tonight to share their point of view on how to make incredible asphalt art projects. And now I'm going to turn it over to Laura. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thanks, Renee. Hi, everybody. I am Laura Zorch McDermott. I'm coming from Wyoming today, and I'm so happy to see you all here. Just a note, as Renee mentioned, Public Art Exchange is like a network of sharing for artists and administrators, and if you feel it's all volunteer. And if you feel like this program is really amazing today, which it is, you can donate via Venmo, which we have on there, that will support just this network and platform continuing. And as we build programming together, which is really fun. I have the great honor today of introducing all of our artist participants before we get started. So how this is going to work, we'd ask that if you are on as a participant, as a listener today, keep yourself muted. We'll have time for conversation after everybody presents. So we'll go through, and this is the order of appearance this afternoon. And once they've all had a chance to talk and present, then we can have some time for questions at the end. And if you have questions as we're moving through, put them in the chat and we'll come back to them as well. So Renee and I will monitor that as everybody is talking. So tonight's and this evening's, this afternoon, wherever you are, program features these following artists. So number one, we have Janel Young, who is a Pittsburgh native painter, muralist, and community leader on a mission to inspire through creativity and play. Prior to pursuing art as a career in 2018, Janel earned a BS in marketing from Penn State University. Janel has since utilized visual arts to amplify community voices, telling their stories boldly, colorfully, and accurately. Second, we have Jessie Unterhalter and Katey Truhn, our Baltimore-based artist duo transforming public spaces into vibrant, playful experiences. Since 2012, they have collaborated on large-scale murals that celebrate movement, symmetry, and bold color combinations. Inspired by woven textiles, architectural surfaces, and the inclusive nature of public art, their dynamic designs flow across walls, wrap around corners, and spill onto the ground, creating immersive and engaging environments. Then we have Costanza Carballo is an Argentine-born artist with 33 years of experience. Her work explores themes of identity, women's empowerment, and community engagement. Through public art and interactive workshops, she focuses on elevating the voices of women of color and creating spaces for dialogue and action. So welcome to all of these artists, and I'm going to turn it over first to Janel Young. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Get started. Janel, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction.
We'll go change. You changing? All right, I'm just getting the laundry out.
Reminder to stay muted if you are on the line.
All right. Are we all good? I always, I think we're all tired of people asking if you can see my screen, but thank you for the introduction. I'm so excited to be talking to you all today. My name is Janel Young, and yes, I am a professional muralist. Actually, my corporate quitiversary is coming up next month, which essentially means I left to be a full-time artist 8 years ago. And I've had the pleasure of doing quite a few murals, but specifically some asphalt murals. So I would love to share those with you and then kind of go through what I think are some things that artists would like to share. So the first project is
You get the Normatex for the weekend? Wow. You're just going to be a recovering fool up here.
Someone is not on mute. I think it's Aaron. Thank you, Aaron. We appreciate you. All right, so the first project I want to talk about is Welcome to the Jungle. This is a historic basketball court in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on the north side. This is actually the most recent basketball court that I've done. It's one of two, and I will be sharing the other. This project was kind of an idea that sprung from some other folks who were just really curious about doing mural work in Pittsburgh, and they had reached out to me because they knew I had done another court. And we kind of got the support of the community and the city. We won a national contest to actually renovate this particular park. And we were able to kind of come up with this design that infused the history of jazz and music in Pittsburgh and basketball. And the community had named this court the Jungle many years ago, I think like 30 years ago. So we wanted to make sure that we kept that theme, and that's kind of where the design plays a part. And I will be talking a little bit more about that in a bit. Next is Pathway to Joy. This was a temporary community pop-up park at Allegheny Overlook. If you're familiar with the city of Pittsburgh, this is downtown on Fort Duquesne Boulevard. Regardless of the folks who were pretty upset with me for having this whole street blocked off for the summer, it was a really great experience. And I actually had the pleasure of working with Renee, who has set up this program. And so I would love to talk about the experiences we had with this. And I'll show kind of a video of how folks were able to interact with this piece. Okay, and here is the Home Court Advantage project. This was the first basketball court I did back in 2019. This is actually very close to where I grew up. I grew up playing basketball on this court. And so it's a very special project to me because the community was super, super involved. So the first thing I really want to talk about is administrators as team members and how administrators can be good partners to us artists. So One way to advocate for us, which I always stress, is really allowing us to simply be the artists, right? Like we are wearing 100 hats all the time. We're entrepreneurs, we're artists, we're administrators, we're community members. We are wearing a lot of hats. But some things that you can do to help advocate for us is be the point of contact for the moving pieces of the Asphalt project. Garner support to push the creative vision. Sometimes folks want to hire an artist, but they don't really have maybe the eye for the creative vision, or it can be difficult to get things approved. So just having some support in that sense is very helpful. Also, taking on project management duties or just hiring a project manager and including that in the budget is super helpful. Being knowledgeable about the public art process and kind of moving things along if you're expecting roadblocks. If you know there's a tough client on the other end of this, or a stakeholder that's going to be hard to kind of get by, or if the city has a lot of regulations, those are things that we could use some help with. My favorite one is making sure that artists get paid on time. You will be surprised, or maybe not, how often we are expected to work without knowing when payment is coming. And that can be really difficult, specifically for asphalt projects, because of how expensive materials can be. And also, it's very labor intensive work when you're outside like that. And I would also add, if it's possible, pay the artist team versus distributing the full budget to the lead artist, if that's something that the artist is interested in. And the reason for this is honestly the tax purposes. Yes, we can take on the full budget and distribute it kind of like how you would do with subcontractors, but it really does create like another hat for us to wear later in the year, when we're doing our taxes, having to, send out 1099s and things like that, more accounting than we might be up for taking on. So for preparation, this is something that's beyond just, preparing the road or the street where the asphalt mural is going to go, but also how we can kind of create a good environment for artists to work in. So some must-haves for the arts administrative folks, these are things that you really should have on your list and on your radar to provide for artists. And artists, I would say, take note of this as well, in case you end up working with a client who doesn't necessarily have these answers. You'll be wanting to ask these questions. Artist at work signage seems like a small thing, but it's not. It lets people know that you're supposed to be there, and it signals to people that you are working. Also identifying water and electricity sources, especially if you're using a lift, figuring out if you need to plug it in or if it's gas that you need. Seeking bathrooms and where to wash brushes and tools. Sometimes people might have like a slop sink that would be better to use than just, like the public bathroom that might be provided. This is also really important, especially because this is outside most of the time. Especially for us women, they don't think about us a lot when it comes to bathrooms. Confirming storage and transportation for materials. Maybe there's like a pickup or drop off area that might make it really easy. I love when I can store materials on site and I don't have to kind of transport things every day. Also asking about power washing and clearing debris. Is that something that's going to be necessary for this space? Is this a road that's been used before? And things like that. Determining if the space needs primed, confirming payment and the agreement to begin working, providing proper barriers to block off the workspace. So I'll show I think you'll be able to see some examples, but even in this photo, you can kind of see there's like road closed signs and caution tape. And later we ended up needing to add more barriers because there were folks who would still like come under the tape. So it's something to think about. And also just talking through your work hours, because the days can be very long and hot, And then also the communication style. A lot of times, if I'm personally on site for something like this, it's really tough to like get on my phone to email and be checking that constantly versus maybe just having like a group chat where we can text or a Slack channel or something like that. Other things that will make a space productive for artists, I would say project awareness in the community is one of my favorite things that's been done for me before. I've had folks who, you know, clients who've like sent out emails and or like postcards or put up signage that might have my face so people know what I look like when I'm entering the space. And then also like they just have an idea of what's going on as well. So it's not kind of abrupt that maybe we're interrupting this space, like I said, like blocking off a street. A tent and chairs for shade and breaks. We have talked about how working on asphalt can be really, really hot in the summer specifically. And there have been cases of like heat stroke and things like that that we really want to avoid and like take care of our bodies. Folks have brought coolers of snacks and drinks for my team, and that's so helpful. I would say like also just having somebody who can like make sure everybody stays hydrated is helpful. And then like encouraging music, if you have a speaker, dancing, stretching, yoga, anything to move your body. And free and closed parking is like a really nice to have. It's something that people don't think about all the time. Okay, ideal team beyond artists. I think this is something for artists and administrators to think about and kind of figuring out maybe how it can fit in the budget or who you can ask. Maybe some of these folks are volunteers, family, friends, things like that. So a dedicated materials runner, in case you forget something, having someone to actually bring meals on site, or even like if you want to do Uber Eats or something like that, someone who can order for you. Having a photographer or videographer for documentation, and for asphalt murals, I would specifically say somebody with a drone. There's nothing worse than like not having final shots of your projects before it gets like dirty with people walking on it or driving on it or whatever. Having someone available to explain the project to people. So while the artist is working, there are going to be people who are curious, which is incredible, amazing. We want to interact with the community, but we also have work to do, right? So if there's someone who knows about the project and they can kind of, you know, kind of be floating around for a few hours a day, that is like really helpful to have. And then also back to the bathrooms thing, utilize your community relationships. So this is me and Miss Renee. And she actually worked out for this project that we could use one of the theaters downtown. We could use their facilities for the bathroom. So we had badges. So when we went in, my crew, they knew who we were, and we were able to just, you know, be able to go to the bathroom, freshen up, get water out of the water fountain, just really simple stuff like that. And it made a very, very, very big difference in comparison to maybe like using a porta potty. Also, delegate a cleanup crew. These can literally be your friends, but honestly, at the end of the day, artists are going to be exhausted, and that's just the reality. So it's nice to have that. So I'm gonna show kind of the process of the jungle. This is how it started. And we use some cool materials and fancy tools to tape and get the design down with a grid. And that's the final product. And I'm very happy we had drone shots. It also helps you know if there are any changes you want to make before it's too late. So with that, I want to talk about the design process. So for me, my personal approach, put functionality at the forefront. For arts administrators, if you could get yourselves or the clients to be really clear about where your goals are, it will be very helpful for the artists to plan with that in mind. So for the basketball courts, you know, I used to play basketball. So I designed kind of like as an athlete and knowing kind of what I would want to see or not want to see in the design to make it too confusing for me to, you know, shoot around. But then also I had some community input on that design. And then for the Arts Festival Pathway to Joy, some of the client priorities were safety, like making sure there was a non-slip factor, like when it rained, we didn't want, any issues. And then also wayfinding. And in this case, this was opening up like right after, COVID, everything went green and we were able to like be outside and hang out with our friends. So I wanted to create something that, one, had some of the asphalt left bare in the design, which you'll see kind of in the shapes. And then two, also having like grit in the paint, which I'll talk about in the materials. And then three, the wayfinding part was like making sure that folks could just call their friend and be like, I'm in the purple section, I'm in the green section, I'm in the square, I'm in the triangle. Like that part to me was like a fun, playful way to make sure that happened. So here's kind of some folks interacting with the jungle. I love this shot so much. And then here's how folks interacted with Pathway to Joy. So you can see there were like vendors on top of the space. There were tables and benches. We actually worked with a local wood shop worker who created the designs for the benches to go with the artwork, and work with a marketing team to make sure the signage was also similar. So that was a really cool experience. And then here is the Home Court Advantage project. And the thing I want to note here is I learned very quickly that I would not use light colors like this yellow ever again on asphalt. So think about, for functionality, kind of think about using colors that are durable, that won't maybe get dirty very quickly, depending on what the foot traffic looks like. And then also we did end up using like traffic paint essentially for the lettering for all the white and for the checkerboard too. And that was really helpful for the durability. So community engagement, I consider myself a community artist. So this is like a very big thing for me. It's very important that I include the community, but it doesn't always have to look one way. So sometimes when you're hired by a client, there isn't going to be that community piece. Like Pathway to Joy was just me and the client. So I just kind of relied on like how I imagined people would interact with the space. But if you have the chance to get in front of people face to face in the community, I highly recommend that. My process is to have like listening sessions, and then push out like an online survey so that I can kind of make the input go further, right? Try to get as much feedback as is appropriate, like different age groups and things like that. And then consider what people are already pouring into the community and try to make sure that they're included. I try to include people in the process wherever I can. So that doesn't always mean that people are going to paint, but if they can, that's nice. Or maybe there's like a controlled environment where they can paint for like 2 hours out of these 2 days. But sometimes I just like to have folks draw something or write out something that doesn't really have to have a lot of pressure to like look nice. And then I take those ideas and kind of translate it into shapes and colors myself. All right, here's the nitty-gritty
Janelle,
stuff.
I'm so sorry. I'm just going to pop in to say we have about 2 minutes left for your time.
Sounds good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So for the materials, I have a materials list that you all can look at, and I'm sure we can throw that link in the chat. So I won't go through all of these right now. But these are things that I've used or heard that are helpful. And if people have questions about them, I'm happy to to talk more about them. The one thing that maybe some folks don't know about is chalk line. And I highly recommend that because you can make really straight lines without a whole lot of like hard mental work. And then installation techniques. There are a bunch of different ways, and it just depends on like how porous the ground is. But I would say for this pathway to joy, you can see I'm using a roller, and you do have to apply a lot of pressure. I had made a joke earlier that my team had like triceps and biceps for days after doing this project because of how much pressure you had to apply. But also squeegee application can be nice. And then like any detail work with brushes, you can kind of use what you like. And then just to wrap up, I hope you like my pun of parking lot, but there's just some other tips that you can use. You know, consider a community event. Please like tag the artists and photographers. Again, the signage for the administrators to provide. And for the artists, I would say consider creating an artist note so that it can be shared with the community and they can really appreciate your design and the work that you did. And then also plan for paint spills. Like it's almost not a mural if you don't have a paint spill. So if you can plan around that, sometimes I kind of build that into like the budget to just make sure that at the end, if there's any miscellaneous thing that needs to be taken care of, that will be included in there. And then having like a trash schedule, if administrators can provide that and artists can adhere to that, it's really nice to like be able to keep your space clean. So that sounds like it's my time. And anything like for me moving forward, the stuff I would love to do next, like I would love to do some steps for a mural. I've been looking into doing like a pool mural, which is like kind of exciting. And then I'm always down for anything sports related to like basketball courts and asphalt murals like that. So yes, that's me. That's my time. I will stop
Thank you,
sharing.
Janelle. Really appreciate it. Who's up next, Laura?
Jessie and Katey.
All right.
Jessie and Katey, do you need me to share your presentation or are you all good?
I think we can do it.
All right, you got it.
I think you can do it too.
Okay. Thank you for the faith.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we go back here. Got it.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, this one,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
Okay. We're doing it.
Yeah, all right. Amazing.
All right.
Woo! This is big for us. We figured it out. We figured out how to share Zoom.
Do you see it
screens.
actually? Yes.
You see it. If you click slideshow, we'll see it on the whole screen.
Oh, I did. Oh,
We're getting a weird message. Your
screen
screen.
sharing is paused. Wait.
That's what wasn't coming up on my computer too.
Okay. Should I try this? I'll do this and then I think I'm going to try that. I don't know. Everyone's going to see themselves for a second, I think. No.
Okay, yeah, she might have to do it.
Dang it.
No, I mean, maybe it's time for
Okay.
Laura to share your presentation.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Good.
We still
You're
have
on
faith in you, but it's just in
Oh my God.
it's just in that your presentation will be great.
Okay, let us celebrate.
All right.
I'm sorry.
I will share my screen. Let me make it full screen. All right,
Okay.
go for it.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Jessie.
And I'm Katey, and we have been working together to design and install asphalt murals since 2012. And we have learned a lot. There's been a lot of ups and downs. We have a lot of feelings and opinions on everything. And we're going to just try to add on to what Janel mentioned about stuff. And we just really appreciate getting the opportunity to share our perspective with you guys. But yeah.
Yeah. So we truly love what we do, and we feel so lucky to be able to create art in public spaces. But, you know, doing that and running a small business, which we never thought we would be doing, is really hard. You know, we have to do so many jobs. We're like designers, administrators, project managers, construction workers, publicists, like ultra marathoners. And, you know, as people and as public artists, you have to be a big thinker and you have to be a problem solver, especially when you're working outside. So we can go to the next slide too. Oh, great. So we can go to the next. Okay, this was a project we did in Philadelphia. Every year they repaint this ginormous space there. So this is a huge crew of people from the Philly Mural Arts program helping us out.
And it was turned into a public park. So we had to incorporate like a maze and game boards. And that was a challenge, but also made it pretty exciting. Anyway, we can wrap. We can go. Okay, so yeah, speaking of problem solving, I feel like one of the problems that we have found in a process is that we're often brought onto a project a little too late. And at that point, like the materials have been chosen for the substrate without considering a mural. And in this case, this is like a good example of that, where they chose to put like super expensive, nice pavers in this space, and then later decided to put a mural on. So that not only made it really difficult for us to work on top of, but it was also a waste of money. And I think that really could have been avoided if the artists had been integrated into the initial discussion. So like, that's something we feel really strongly about, is art should never be, or public art should never be an afterthought.
And I just want to chime in here real quick. With this project in particular, it was a active construction site. So like we were working on the floor mural while people were like installing plants, and you know, it was just a really big dance that we had to do, and it just made the project so much harder. So dedicating the time and the space for the artist to install the piece is super important. Sorry.
No, it's good. And often, this isn't always, but often we're working on new builds, like as was this situation. So something we're pretty passionate about is just getting involved in the discussion earliest and like the initial phases of planning, because if that's the case, we might be able to take the project in a totally new and exciting direction that hadn't been thought of before, and work with the new material. That's exciting. And like I don't know if we want to go to the next slide or not. No, maybe, I don't know. Okay, well, yeah. So like, I guess, for instance, something we've wanted to do for a really long time is take our work to another level with use of new materials, like working with concrete integrated coloring, or installing a tile mosaic, or like in this piece, integrate seating, or we thought like planters within the design so that everything feels super cohesive. Because we never want our work to feel like it's plopped on top of a space. We want it to feel really integrated. So this was a super success. We were brought on really early, and we could work with the client for the vision of how this bench was going to be made, and the style, and where it was placed, and how our artwork would then play off of that.
Okay, cool. And I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, so this was one of the very first murals we did in 2012. It's in Baltimore, Maryland. And, you know, we didn't know too much when we did this project. We just put in a lot of time and effort. And the piece is actually still there, but it has disintegrated a lot. So just want to go over the materials that we used to use and the ones that we're using now. So this project was with Sherwin-Williams porch and floor paint, or porch and floor enamel. With that product, it adheres to cement and concrete I don't know if it adheres to asphalt, but when you use that product, you need to power wash your surface and let that dry, then prime your surface with porch and floor enamel. And as you're doing this, you need to make sure that there's no dust or debris getting on the mural, because once you paint over that, all those little flecks are gonna, end up chipping when somebody walks over it, and that's gonna start your mural chipping, and that's gonna be the process of erosion, which we don't really mind. I mean, we kind of like, it looks okay, and we don't feel that everything needs to last forever. Yeah, so that's that process. It's a water-based paint, and it's just really easy to use. It's basically just like a house paint. And another product that we've used that is a lot more durable is called Street Bond. And that is a 2-part epoxy, or I don't know if it's epoxy. It's just a 2-part product. And it's slip resistant. You have to mix it with like a drill. It's pretty expensive, and it's a lot more physically demanding to apply, but it does last a really long time. And you can get your colors custom fixed or custom made. What else? That you can't really buy that product in the store. You kind of have to go through a rep. So,
but it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, if longevity is what you're after, and safety, like if it's a very wet zone that is going to be exposed to water a lot, and then there's a lot of foot traffic, you're definitely going to want to use Street Bond because it's super nonstick and long lasting.
Yeah, I think for future projects, we would like to use Street Bond, but it's just, if you're on a tight budget, you're not gonna be able to use Street Bond. It's just too expensive. So then you kind of have to give up the long-lasting public art aspect of it.
Which we feel like is okay, because people get really desensitized sometimes to public art. So I think it's good to switch it up and then give artists another chance to create more work. But yeah, we can go to the next slide.
Oh yeah. Yes. These are some shots of us being exhausted and waking up at 4 a.m. Yeah. So just, painting a mural is hard, and painting on the floor is extra hard. I think it's just mentally and physically just a labor of love. So yeah.
Yeah. And just to speak to this project, we don't have a photo of it finished, but this was our very first staircase mural that we ever did. And it had been a major goal of ours for a couple of years. So it's very complicated. And I think something we hadn't thought about until we got there was sort of the optical illusion of it, and the danger of walking up a stairway and not being able to see where the stairs are. But so yeah, we took an approach where we had to do we did different colors on the treads and on the steps. So that was just something interesting we learned in like being there to do it. But
yeah. Okay. And just also, if you are going to be using porch and floor enamel from Sherwin-Williams, which this project was, you have to mix in an anti-slip agent, because when it rains, these stairs get super slippery. So you have to add some kind of grip to it. And even then, the paint is still pretty slippery.
And I think on top of this one, we also then ordered a product called Slip Doctor, which is specifically to make a surface non-slip, which also had additive, and we sealed it with that. Okay.
Yeah,
we can
tidbits.
It's so hard not to see all the questions and want to answer them, but I know we're going to get to that.
Okay. Yeah. And then if we go to the next slide.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a project we did in Charlotte, and it was, this community engagement. Okay, wait, no, sorry. This isn't the second. Sorry. I guess, but what we really want to stress about community engagement is that it's not always beneficial to the project. Like, it can sometimes feel really forced, and like it's just, the client's trying to check a box, but it's actually a hindrance to the final product. Like, we have a very specific aesthetic, and we come into a space and we want to like come at it with our expertise. So I think like sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought.
Yeah,
Sorry, I forgot where I was.
I think it's like community engagement can work, but it can also not work, and it's not for every artist. And I think there's an extra level of effort when working with community, and there's an extra level of planning. And I think that's something to really consider. It's not all artists are going to be great at this or are going to want to do this. And you don't need to have, like, public art will still be a successful thing without it. It also, you do form really nice connections and bonds with people.
I think the important thing for us, like the best situations have been when it's like very distinct from the installation of the mural, because we're so stressed out when we have to install a mural, and there's always problems, and like weather is a thing. So, and time constraint because you're shutting down streets. So I just think, like for this project that we have a photo of here, the community engagement aspect, it came in these paint days, but also, you can go to the next slide. We had a separate few days, like a couple months prior to the installation of the mural, where we did workshops with people to come up with ideas of like working around symmetry and thinking about textiles using like pre-cut shapes that we had provided. So then we made our designs based on these workshops we had, but like, I really think it was super successful because it was very structured and a bit like limited, but also separate from the installation. And it just like gave us the headspace to really enjoy connecting with the community, because it is awesome.
Yeah, and I think the last point I want to make about that is that, so if community involvement is a must in your project, as administrators, it is so important to help facilitate those projects, whether it's like leading workshops, but you need to provide extra support to the artists because it is extra work. So yeah. And we can go to the next slide. Oh, that's just one. We did 3 murals on this rail trail. So that's just one. I think there should be one more slide. Oh, right. Yeah. So outside of community paint days, you know, there's like a million different ways you can work with community members. We've started asking the community to name the final piece. We've also done photo shoots. Like in this mural, we created a little costume and had like a photo shoot. And then, you know, creating artwork inspired by the mural. It just, you know, I feel like the mural will always live on, like through Instagram, through community in some way. And it's, you know.
Yeah, it's like, I feel that there's always a need. People feel that the community needs to have a physical hand in the making of it. But really, once we leave, it's not about us anymore. And it's the community's artwork, and it becomes a part of their story. And people usually kind of take pride in that, and it becomes theirs. So I just think that's something that people should remember. Yeah, you can go to the next slide.
Okay. So this was a project we did in Boone, North Carolina. So it's kind of like a little bit of a wayfinding project where we were connecting the town of Boone with Appalachian State University. And it was kind of through this stairwell that kind of let people onto the campus. And this was a really successful project for us because the people we were working with just like really trusted us and our process. And that is something that's so important to us. We have a really strong aesthetic, and we are so anal in what we're doing that sometimes, or most of the time, feedback from a client is less helpful. I said that weird, but you get what I mean. Yeah, if you're hiring people because you like their style, let them do their thing. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. And for us specifically, speaking to asphalt murals, oftentimes client wants to see a mock-up, and we will provide a vague mock-up, usually suggesting like the color palette and certain geometry, but ultimately we won't design the mural until we were on site and in the space, because it's not, no one's ever really, aside from drone shots, no one's ever experiencing it flat on from above. It's like people are on top of it and walking across it. So we want to make sure that the artwork is like best experience from that angle. So that's when we will design. And that's why I think it's really important that the client does trust that we want to make the best work possible.
Okay, we go to the next slide. Huh. Okay, okay, yes. Don't rush the process. Yeah, I think just, whatever street or floor mural gets installed, it's going to have a huge impact on the community, and people are going to love it and appreciate it and walk on it. And I think as administrators, it's really important to take the project and the artist seriously. And if you don't have the resources to properly do that, don't rush it. There's been so many times where people are like, we need this mural like in 2 days. And you're like, chill out. Like, it's okay. We're just painting a mural. And it becomes really stressful, and it hurts the work, and it makes the project not fun for everybody because it doesn't need to be stressful, So
Yeah.
don't rush the process.
Yeah, make sure you do it right and that you give enough time for the artist to come up with a design they like and then be able to install it. Yeah, rushing is honestly the worst. I think it's our biggest pet peeve, and it happens a lot, especially with winter coming. A lot of clients try to get everything done before winter, and it's not possible. And waiting till spring is a joy.
Yeah. And you're like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, just a mural. But
Yeah.
also, we love murals, but it is just a mural.
Yeah. So I think there's one more slide that just is like,
and then,
yeah, thank you for listening to us.
yeah, this was pretty fun. I hope you guys got something from it.
I'm never gonna have a photo shoot without a custom-made costume again. That
I
is
know,
my
I know.
key takeaway.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much. And we are keeping track of questions. And Costanza, I'm going to put your work plan in here first.
Okay.
I share my screen. Yeah. Okay. All right. And if you want to introduce yourself while I share that little video that you sent me, we can do that.
Oh, again. Hola. Hello, everybody. My name is Costanza Carballo. I'm a community public artist living here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And originally, I was born and raised in Argentina and moved straight to Minnesota. And as a teenager, I had the opportunity to be one of a youth artists in a community project to make mosaic benches and pathways made out of rocks symbols for a corner park in Phillips neighborhood. And that's where, as a youth, I learned that there is a future and a career for public artists, and I've been hooked ever since. And so thank you for having me tonight. And it was so awesome to hear about and learn about the other artists and everything that they do. I think they did a great job of explaining a lot of the materials and preparation steps. So one of the things, if it's okay with you all, I want to read the events for the day of painting with the community. In this case, it was a project called Safe Route to Schools. And it was a project that involved a middle school and a South high school. And so for the day of painting, we came up with an example of our roles. And so it's called Event Roles and Expectations for Mural Painting. A setup team, the tasks is to set up the canopy for the paint station, including tables and cloth, arrange paints on the table by number, and set up the paint by number instructions boards, because we had it all set up on the street and then on the board so people knew what number, what color goes where. Expectations, work collaborative, ensuring all materials are ready and accessible. Maintain a tidy and organized station to facilitate a smooth start for participants. Then we also wanted to have runners. The task, distribute paints, brushes, paint sprays, rollers, and water to participants. Expectations, stay proactive and responsive to the needs of participants. Offer encouragement and ensure everyone has the supplies they need without delay. We had a documenter team. The task was to take photos of the progress and different stations, conduct brief interviews with participants to capture their thoughts and experiences. Expectations. Approach participants with respect and enthusiasm. Ensure everyone feels comfortable and proud to share their involvement. We wanted a cleanup team. The task was to wash brushes, dismantle the canopy and clean up the paint stations, manage waste and recycling efficiently. Expectations. Work diligently and respectfully, understanding the importance of leaving the space better than when we found it. Encourage others to assist in the cleanup effort. For the teachers, their task was to identify and assist students who need individual guidance or motivation. Expectations. Be patient and provide constructive feedback. Celebrate every effort and encourage creativity and expression. For the students, the task, partner up and support each other through the painting process. Expectations, engage positively with your partner, share responsibilities, and motivate each other to complete your section of the mural. Costanza, I was the welcome and coordination. The task, greet participants and assign them to their respective roles. Expectations, offer a warm welcome to everyone, helping to set a tone of inclusivity and enthusiasm for the project. Marco is my art partner. On the ground coordination. Task, oversee the overall expectation on the ground, ensuring all teams function smoothly together. Expectation, lead by example with a positive attitude, resolve any issues that arise, and keep the team spirit high. General expectations, team spirit. Remember, we are all here for the same goal of community investment. Let's keep an open mind, offer support, and celebrate each contribution. Respect and patience. This is our first time coming together for such a project. Let's give each other grace, avoiding blame, and embracing every opportunity to learn and grow together. So I thought that was really nice to talk about as a team the day off, because in the hot weather and in the asphalt, and we wanted to enjoy the process, because I feel that's one of the most important things about community public making is enjoying the process, and the final product usually reflects that enjoyment of the process.
You want me to share the presentation and you can walk us through that, what that looked like?
Sure.
A reminder, Laura put that incredible list of expectations and inspirational teamwork motivation speech is in the chat. Thanks for sharing that.
Yes, my pleasure. And we wanted to break all those roles, because I always explain that sometimes the role of washing brushes is the most important for the day during a mural project. And when it's community, it takes the whole team to make it happen. So this is a presentation of the process of designing the asphalt mural with the middle school and the high school. And it says the creation of our community murals. It's a collaborative journey. So that's a picture of me and Marco Agüero. He's a tattoo artist and public artist that I've been working with in the past couple of years. And then we always involve our community. So we have the pictures of us in the schools, and we generated the ideas through conversations, some surveys, and then we also did some multiple choice options so that we could come up with the theme, because we created together, we create the theme together, we create the narrative together, we agree on the color palette together. And I think involving the community, yes, even though it's a lot more work, I think involving them in all the stages of the process really helps with the ownership and feeling proud of the entirety of the project. And so this was the example of some of the themes that we presented to the students. At the beginning, we were told that we were going to have 4 corners. So we developed a theme that involved 4 different subjects. So the 4 elements: earth, air, water, and fire, the 4 stages of life: birth, growth, maturity, and death, the 4 stages of the monarch butterfly cycle: the egg, the caterpillar, chrysalis, and butterfly. And then we also did the 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, or fall. And we had the option of other things that we probably missed, and everybody could put their input. That is an example. And then the students voted, and me and Marco got together to tally up all the results and see where we took it. And then we had drawing sessions with all the students after we reached a common theme together. And that's shots of everyone working, and it's very exciting to see how the kids zone in and really fly with their imagination and creativity. So once we had all the sketches from the students, we took pictures with Marco's iPad and we did like a vision board. And again, we spent a lot of time looking at all the drawings to see if there were similar birds, similar plants, or what we could gather for a design where everyone felt somehow their idea portrayed in the design. We did explain that the space, even though it's big, might not have room for everything, but no drawing was a waste and everything worked as to inspire us. And that's the example of the middle school design that they came up with. And that's I think I'm in. Could you go to the next slide, please? I'm sorry. Yes, that's the final design that we came up with the students. So to me, a community public art, it's no longer my art, it's the art of everybody. But me and my colleague are the facilitators, and we are, of course, we bring in the elements of designing and all of that, and we teach it along the way. But this is all the students' ideas and drawings that we put into the design. And if you could go to the next slide, that's the shot of the corner of the other one, the one with the drone of the street. And these are the designs for the corners for the high school. And this was done with the students at South High School. And yeah, because we started with 4 elements, 4 seasons, and 4 corners, when we actually got to the site, they realized that one of the corners needed to not be part of the mural because it would have been too tight for the bus to turn. So then we had to scramble like 2 days before to combine 2 corners into one, because we really only got to paint 3 corners. But, that's community art. You got to be flexible and you got to come up, like other artists said, with solutions on the fly. If you could go to the next slide. Once we had our design in black and white, we had workshops on color theme where, we experienced with the color wheel and, what colors meant what to different cultures. And one of the main imageries of the mural design. They wanted us to paint it with the medicine wheel colors. And so that's what we did. And then those are more examples of the students' work. And then if you go to the next slide, it's an example of how we came up with the title and the narrative once we had our design. And the middle schooler was The Eternal Life, a mural about life and renovation. And the mural with the high school students, the theme was the dance of dualities. Oh, no, sorry. The four corners was the eternal dance, and the one with the students, the long one, is the dance of dualities. And then that's my presentation. I wanted to keep it short and to the point.
Thank you. Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you, Costanza. That was, I love that you just had a quarter of your project taken away and you're just like, well, we're just gonna address that on the fly. Great adaptation. I think
Well,
every artist on this call was like, oh my God.
yeah,
He has been there.
the fly, because by that time of the process, the corners were already prepped to close and we only had
Yep.
on a time. So that's, and it was my first Asphalt project. So I learned a lot about really having communication about the plans and the dimensions before we get to that. But that's for the next one. Every project teaches you something.
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot of questions in the chat, Laura. Do you want to
I start
pick a couple?
asking them.
We have
So-
maintenance and paint types and
Yes. One of the first ones, maybe, and this is for all of the artists, so whoever wants to chime in. How long do the outdoor murals last?
I'll answer for my experience. We painted it last summer, and we're gonna see what happens with the winter and the salt and all of this ice. And the plan is, which was part of the contract and in the budget, that in the spring we're going back to examine and see what areas need touch up, if they need touch up. And so I'm still learning to see how long it will last.
It really depends on what product you're using. I think if you're using Sherwin-Williams porch and floor enamel, and then it depends on what surface you're painting on.
Yeah, if it's new pavement, or
Yeah, if it's new pavement, it's gonna adhere better, longer. But if it's like old and cracked, it's, there's just like more of a reason for it to chip up.
But I will say that I feel we have done stuff with Sherwin-Williams porch and floor enamel, probably that Charlotte one, and it's been like 8 years maybe. And I don't think it's deteriorated too much. And it was probably because it was on fresh pavement.
And another thing to consider, it's like, who is going over this mural? Like, are there cars going over it? Because that's gonna rip up your mural really fast. But if it's just pedestrians and bikes, your mural probably has a bit more of a chance to last longer. But if you're using street bond, cars can go over that stuff and it's fine. It'll just get dirty. And then you can also touch it up if need be, but it is super durable.
Yeah, and I would say for like the sports courting, like I like Sportmaster because typically it's something that like cities are used to, like they've seen it before. It's what they use for like their standard courts that don't have murals on them. So the product, you kind of can get a better sense of what the life is for it. So I think what they say is maybe like 10 years. And sometimes you do, have it in the agreement that kind of, like we just heard earlier, like maybe you'll go back in 5 years or 10 years and take a look at it and see if it needs touch up, if the artist is willing to touch it up. Or sometimes it's just you sign the contract that says if it deteriorates to this point, it can be power washed or painted over completely or something like that.
Great. Thank you all. Question here, somebody sent me is, okay, I'm curious about how project budgets are established for these murals. Does anyone have any formulas or best practices, etc.?
For establishing the budgets.
Mhm.
I want to jump in here on that, even though I'm not the speaker, right? I mean, I'd love to hear what other administrators think, but it's like, I don't know that you can, is that the artist's job to figure that out, right? Because it's almost like, as the commissioning agent, you have to know what is the location. Just what these artists are saying is, how is the site used? And how much money do you have, right? So it's like, if you want it to last forever and you need to spend $400 for 5 gallons for the top tier stuff, you know, it's kind of like, I feel like it's the responsibility of the administrators to figure those parameters out, right? And not expect artists to make something that's going to last forever if you don't have the money for that kind of a investment.
Yeah, and then you also need to pay,
Oh, sorry.
you also need to pay artists, you know, a living wage. It takes so much to make a mural, design a mural. And then like, obviously there's going to be problems along the way that nobody has foreseen. Like we've encountered, so like our paint didn't stick to the wall. We had to sandblast another wall. It's just like, there's so many problems beyond your scope that you have to figure out. And it's just, yeah, you need to get paid a living wage for what you're doing too.
Yeah. How do you guys figure out the amount of paint that's needed?
I was just looking at that question, and again, I'm gonna stick to the basketball court thing. But like Sportmaster has a calculator on their website that you can literally go in and say, like, these are the colors I'm thinking, this is the type of court, this is the square footage, like, is it a single court, is it a double court, stuff like that. And like based on the colors, maybe you need, like, if it's that yellow, honey, let me tell you, you're gonna need about 7 coats. But you know, they can kind of help you determine like what that's going to be. And maybe even go through a rep to talk to them about what the project is, and they might be able to help you as well. Just kind of calculate. I mean, we can, yes, we're professionals and we can guesstimate all we want, but like it doesn't hurt to have, you know, that next opinion. But I personally, similarly to what we were just saying, like that can also be something like a project manager might be able to help out with, so we can kind of focus more on something else.
Yeah, just to chime in, I didn't buy the paint until we had the design and the color palette agreed on, because I didn't want to just, I can't buy colors if I don't know what we're using. And then I did speak to a rep at Sherwin-Williams for at least an hour. He was so helpful. And so we looked, he helped me calculate the square footage and the paint and the colors and everything like that. So talking to the painters at the store really helps.
Here's a question about paint. So Allison asked, so far we've heard that Street Bond is top tier but expensive with long wait times, and Sherwin-Williams floor enamel is cheaper but potentially flaky. Is there material between the two that people recommend?
No, well, sorry, I don't know if anyone else is going to say, but I was going to say no. And it's really just about you're preparing the surface correctly and applying enough layers and a clear coat, like just kind of doing your due diligence with the whole installation. Because both Sherwin-Williams and we've started to use Benjamin Moore, which we do like better. They have a porch and floor enamel as well. They're actually really good. Like we've seen them last past 5 years, as long as it wasn't getting driven over. But there might be a product out there that we just don't know about.
I have a question that's not in the chat, which is all three of you, right? Like you've come back for more. Like these are hard projects, right? They're hard projects and you keep doing them. And I'm curious, there is obviously something you really love about this work. And I'd really love to hear from all of you, like, what is it that makes you, if anyone on this, chat, on the chat was like, I'm going to call, this artist, like, I can't wait to talk to them. Like, why do you keep coming back to these difficult types of murals?
Go first.
Anybody?
I think for us, I mean, we love taking over public spaces. I mean, so much of our lives are dictated by like concrete and advertisements. And it's fun to think about how as artists we can take over and add color and joy and just, add a pop of excitement and ask people to like dance in the street for a second,
It's always shocking to us because we can get beat down on a job and feel like, what are we doing? The world is a crazy place. What are we even changing? But the feedback from people time and again is just incredibly motivating. It's amazing how much people appreciate it, and the opportunity to get to go to different nooks and crannies of the world and meet new communities is just so exciting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
second all of that. And I think one of my favorite things, like I kind of mentioned, like with the drone shots, is like just watching people interact with your work. And like sometimes I like to just go when no one, like just as a fly on the wall, and like nobody knows that I'm there, and like just see how people are enjoying the space. And like that just makes my heart really full to see it like happen that way. And to hear people talk about it or say like I remember the first basketball court I did, there were kids who were driving, like teenagers who were driving in from like other parts of the city because they wanted to play there, and I wasn't done painting yet. Like like I realized that at night when I was leaving, they were coming and playing on it. And I was like, I can't even be that mad. Like they're just
Yeah.
excited. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're just excited. So it is cool to see people's reactions and like that you are making a difference without having to physically be there when people are experiencing it.
Yeah, and for me, like I said, since I started as a youth artist, it really made a big impact on me, because it was a way to show the world not just my vulnerabilities, but also my strength. And it was a way to also say, teenagers, we're not just out here to do bad things on the streets all the time. Like we're also out here being part of this community and making it better. And then I've always noticed in every project that when you beautify a corner or a space for the public, they start picking up the garbage. If there wasn't a garbage can, they're gonna put one there. If there weren't flowers, they get inspired and they wanna put flowers. So I think it's a great example to bring all the generations together and interact and live in the space. And that's what keeps me going.
Amazing. Thank you, everybody. There are some more questions, but we want to be conscious of everybody's time. So we're going to start to wrap up. So just a final closing thought from our participating artists. If you each want to just give us something to end on here before we break.
Some of my final thoughts. I wasn't sure if I could do this podcast because I paint, so I don't have to talk. But thank you. You guys were a great group, and I was able to express myself, and it really inspired me and motivates me that there's so many people interested in learning from us public artists and community artists. So just thank you for the time and being here.
Yeah. Yeah, just thank you. I think this forum is so awesome. I think the world needs more places for free and fun information and just community. And I think it's just, I don't know. I think both of us were just like really refreshed that we got asked to participate in this. And I don't know, just, it makes me happy inside that this exists and that artists exist. And yeah.
And that all these people came because they care and are interested.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah, I don't think I have very much else to add. Like, I'm just excited that we had the opportunity to do this because a lot of times I think, the whole point of this, like Renee was saying at the beginning, is that the artist doesn't really usually get a chance to like tell you what would make our lives easier. So that's a really awesome thing that I hope continues in this kind of discussional type of way.
Well, that's what PAX is all about, right? Just bringing people who love public art and engaging in communities together. If you're not already a part of PAX, it's free. I encourage you to join. I think there's enough enthusiasm about getting into the weeds on paint types and things like that, that we should, Laura and I, let's organize a shop talk about this. So this is a PAX talk. You're familiar with the panel format. We also do things called shop talks where people just want to geek out about their topic. So we'll throw one together and people can join that. There was a question about a recording, and we will post this recording on our YouTube site. And I just, want to say, I'm really inspired by those last thoughts about working together in community, especially this week. It's really nice to end on those thoughts. So be a part of PAX, join us on the listserv, on the website. If you have some extra change kicking around, think about giving it to us to keep our Zoom account alive. Yeah, thanks everyone. Beautiful to see people. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.